what does that midterm look like for you? What would you suggest clients to start to focus on as they move out of the right now to that next step?
Yeah, yeah, and then we do the same thing, So I would suggest short term, get yourself to the year end, start thinking about, what you want to do and when you want to do that. One of the things that we offer here at ACE for our GP clients is an assessment. Okay, you guys offer an assessment, we do the same thing. I think probably both of those are valuable tools that clients can leverage. But we'll actually come in and do an assessment of your GP environment so we can document, because these environments have been around for a long time and they've morphed and they've changed, and we know that it wasn't documented very well when they made those changes. Nobody documents it, so sometimes there's stuff in there we don't even know about because it was done 2 people ago. But we'll go in and we'll do an assessment of your GP environment and then tell you, okay, you're on GP, what version of GP you're on, what version of SQL you're running, what are the modules you're running within GP, what are the third parties you're running? Do you have customizations? Do you have integrations? And then just as important of all those things is, what's the shape of your data? Okay. Because everybody's data is dirty. I don't care who you are, how anal you are about it. It's going to be dirty over time. But we're able to put all this together and really document a great current state of your environment. And then that coupled with, what are some of the stuff that you want to do that you're not doing now and you've heard about, you read about, we can sprinkle some of that in there, and then map all of this functionality over to, what would that look like in a BC world, and how easily does it map over, and what's the time, energy, and effort that's going to be required to do that. So by doing this assessment, by doing our assessment, and by doing Greenshades assessment, again, it documents current state, it documents desired future state with some additional functionality, and it gives you a blueprint, a roadmap. Not saying, again, you have to do it January 1, but it gives you a good blueprint to start thinking about. And just like with payroll, you don't swap payroll providers. On Friday, we're on this payroll provider. On Monday, we're on this one. It doesn't work that way. There's thought and lots of thought and lots of planning and lots of work involved in it. Same thing are true with these migrations. So the blueprint gives our clients kind of a sense of what that effort's going to look like. And then because you understand what the effort, what the expense is going to be, you can now start better planning for it, and start putting budgetary dollars together, start taking care of some of the prerequisite items that you need to, I mentioned data because data is always a challenge.
It absolutely is. And the way I see it is really this mid stage is, moving from kind of firefighting to really building out that plan, and data hygiene is, I'd say, the hidden cost driver in a lot of these migrations, right? It is where a lot of that ROI will come in if they're pre-planning and building out what that data hygiene, should and could look like, rather than just cutting over very quickly, like you're mentioning, without a plan or without that blueprint that your team would be mapping out or that we could help with. That's where those costs can look pretty hefty on a quick implementation where somebody's just having to move over because they hit a very sudden immediate pain, rather than going through this process like we're talking about with these different buckets. It's really going through that building process and the planning opportunity to think about what you can pre-work in the migration piece, work out a blueprint, and then start to stage step through a cleaner migration. I mean, the clean data now is, a downstream clean quarter, which, helps both of our sides and absolutely clients.
Absolutely. I mean, and then the other thing to think about on data is just also how much, because I have conversations, how far back do you want to go? Not only does the data need to be clean, but how much of that data do I want to bring with me? And, you talk to clients at first, and I'm like, well, I've been on GP for 20 years. I want to bring all 20 years with. Well, do you really, really need 20 years? And do you want to go through the process of cleaning that all up? Yeah, what do you need it for? Well, I really don't need it. It's a security blanket,
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, okay, well, let's think about what a realistic amount of data in the past that we need to bring over. In most situations, you bring over current year, you bring over 2 back, and that gives you the reporting that you need, the 3-year trending analysis that you want. And if you still need more than that, then there's some creative things that we can do with that data so you still have access to it and it doesn't go away. But again, these are all things that we talk you through in the assessment as part of that planning. And Rob, I have to assume all things that you talk your clients through when you go through the payroll assessments as well.
Absolutely, especially related to that the years of data that they could migrate. The positive is Greenshades has a long-term integration and relationship with Microsoft, so transitioning GP data to BC is not a heavy lift, but really how much data do they want over, and do they need it for ongoing reporting? That's the big question mark, and where we really love to partner with people like yourselves to ensure that, is there a reason to bring over the 20 to 25 years of data? It's not going to disappear, or what are they going to use ongoing? Do they need that safety blanket or not? And sometimes there's reasons, like you said, and ways to be creative where they might need 5-7 years of data, especially on the payroll side. There's things that we can do to migrate some of that, and maybe it not have to live inside of BC for, things like I-9s and W-4s, where they have to keep those documents and keep that information for audit purposes, but there's no reason to have, a decade of data inside of BC unless they're utilizing it for specific reasons, right?
Yeah, no, exactly. And payroll is a totally different beast when it comes to that. And there's other, requirements and compliance issues that you guys have to deal with. And that's where, we love the fact that we can lean on you guys. We're dangerous when it comes to payroll, but you guys are the experts. And that's why we value the partnership with you guys so much, because you can bring us, you do bring us and our clients kind of that best of breed knowledge and understanding and expertise. So let's move beyond the assessments and talk about, again, still midterm. We've done the assessments. We've got kind of that blueprint, that roadmap that we've talked about. But again, we don't want to eat the elephant in one bite. We want to take little bite-sized chunks. I could talk to this as well, but Rob, I wanted to ask you, are you seeing clients kind of taking bite-sized chunks, doing smaller little initiatives to better position themselves for an eventual total move?
Definitely. And I think it comes, from that first step and really focusing in on kind of the people first aspect of things, and where we can, take a lift out of an ERP, transition and, look at something that affects the employee experience, affects, some of the data and the financial migration by looking at payroll possibly as the first move. At times it's either that first or, kind of second when you think of contractor data at times, but generally it's within that first window of migrating data out as you look towards Business Central or what your future step looks like, and being able to utilize a tool like Greenshades payroll, and, being reliant on us for those compliance updates and the multi-state tax codes and some of the big, beautiful bill pieces that are coming to fruition, and not having to, go through the wonderful time of year end on your own. But we have such matter experts, and we're constantly, beefing up everything related to those assessments and those migrations, that whether clients have customizations or specific scenarios, and we work with partners like ACE, to work through parallels and startup sandboxes and really map out that process through the blueprint and the assessments that you've discussed, right? Whether it's a Greenshades led assessment and then we're bringing in ACE, but really what does that blueprint look like moving out payroll first? We still have, general ledger integrations and ways to migrate the data, but we can start inside of a sandbox, run those parallels, ensure that there's confidence kind of in those motions, and finding really modern and efficient ways to possibly adjust some of our processes from the learnings from those first steps, and kind of how we mapped out, what the current pain is and what our manual workarounds look like. So really it is driving down to that blueprint, picking, the first kind of step and the bite out of that elephant. And generally that can start with a people first assessment related to payroll that really drives a lot of the other, I'd say, focuses and efficiencies in the business, right?
Yeah. No, and I agree 100%. That's a lot of the guidance that we're giving our clients right now is, I think they look at this need to migrate, and it's just such an overwhelming thought and potential task that, the hardest step to take in a situation like that is the first step, right? And so we're trying to break it down and say, okay, let's not try to do everything all at once. Let's not worry about everything all at once. Let's take smaller initiatives and let's move them. Let's better position you with it, so it's not an issue when we do make the migration. And payroll is a perfect example. The one thing I tell people is there's a lot of things you can screw up in a company, but when you screw up payroll, that's bad. And this, Rob, it's not like, oh, payroll went out on time and you're getting phone calls. Thanks, payroll went out on time. Nobody thanks you for going out on time. But when it doesn't happen, the phones are lighting up, right? So you got to get payroll right. You got to take care of your people. And it's an easy transition because you guys do a great job of saying, okay, if you're not on Greenshades now and you're on GP, we can get you on Greenshades now and GP. And then when you do make the decision to move to Business Central, fantastic. We're positioned, we're ready to go. And it's one less thing you have to think about. And it's one very important thing that you don't want to screw up. So let's go ahead and put time, energy, effort into that now and make sure that we've got, everything, lined up the way we need to. So I tell clients beyond the data cleansing, which we talked about, if there's small little areas, payroll is another real obvious one. Go ahead and get yourself positioned properly for payroll so you can continue to do it in GP. And then when it's time to move to BC, you're perfectly positioned there. Financial reporting is another one. What kind of reporting are you going to do in the BC world? And what are you currently doing in GP, and will it translate? So that's another good one that we recommend to our clients. But payroll is certainly one that's, I won't say easy, but it's nice. It's contained. We could put draw lines around it and say we've got this taken care of, and put that in a safe box over here. As we start thinking about the other things. So, and I think organizations need to do that, and organizations need to look to you guys to assist with that, because you do such a good job in both environments.
The elephant ends up being 2 or 3 or 4 as they work through kind of those processes and find places to create efficiencies, fix data hygiene, and really address problems pre-migration that then help the migration and help all of those other pieces related to data, reporting, analytics, some of the financial report, all the way down to invoicing for some of these companies, because the integrations on both sides and some of the efficiencies and options that they gain related to Business Central and the innovations that are coming from Microsoft.
Yeah, absolutely.